to be fair. I love that we're starting the show strong. Lyle coming in with a $2 super chat. Pre-live. LFU, Chris Hemsworth. I am the healthiest man in 40K. Brad Chester, the tallest, the prettiest, the youngest, best hair. And next to me is the Mr. Judge. Take it away.
Mr. Brian Horton. How's it going? Everybody sign up for Du Bois GT and Rumble at the River.
Well, I love that. I'm Thomas Ogden and the most active 40K player in the world right now.
I do like that you also possibly question your name there for a second. You and I am oh, hold on a minute, guys. I wasn't ready for this.
Oh, yeah.
Let me pull that license out and read it.
Stephen Crawley, Master of the Astreus.
Uh-oh. You're going to have Playmaker's going to call you on that, man.
I taught the Playmaker the way of the Astreus, sir.
The reason why I had to say I almost called myself Chad Brester, but then I thought, get that. I'm Chad Brester, most active player in 40K.
You know what? You know what we're starting with? For a change, we're dipping straight into our title. You know why? Because, like Matt was saying in chat, dude, not only is he a boss for winning with sisters, but he's also running an off-meta sisters list. You're like, how?
100%.
I don't understand. I've been looking at this list. I was literally just coaching sisters and going, I just don't understand some of these choices.
Lyle coming in with the quick super chat for $2. Brad is also the guy to blame for the upcoming orc nerfs.
You're welcome. Also, #1 orc player right now. Take that. Woot woot.
By the way, I love the guy's list who won Tampa because he named his people.
Oh, yeah. He named everybody in the list. It was amazing. His list.
It was fantastic.
It
just made me happy.
It was literally a sisters player that had a fluff list full on Lord up, and he crushed. I didn't believe him. Lyle are literally playing at the last game at Gem City. Props, a very good tournament. Everybody loved it. And he goes, sisters and world eaters are in the finals. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Don't lie to me. And then he's like, I'm serious, man. Look at it. And then like halfway through our game, he's like, sisters pulled it out. I'm like, that can't be a thing. And there's not even there's not even a meta sisters list as far as, but it's like there's meta units that you take. There's a lot of times when you see the same unit all the time. Like he didn't even bother with Exorcist. And I've seen some of this do well without the Exorcist, but he just didn't bring a lot of anything. Like you're like, he's a boss. They're legit.
When you look at different sisters,
Matt O coming in as a standard sisters player, they're saying there is meta sisters options. This dude has none of them.
Yeah, it's just he just went, I'm bringing my own deal. I walked to my own beat. So I'm impressed with this. He also had a really rough road. He had a crazy. He beat a lot of really great players on his way here. It wasn't like he, just was the guy that pulled random luck. He crushed all weekend. Did super well.
I mean, if you look, his final three was Lennon, Quentin Johnson, and Harpster.
Yeah, and you see like through the tournament, he actually played a lot of good players. Also, this dude had a really rough road. It wasn't like it was this fluky thing where he just happened to play into things that played well. He rocked out. So exactly. Love it. Anna goes, the player will probably now fade into the shadows, never to be seen again. Proved himself and is now nothing to prove.
James K. Boca, 40K.
Yep.
Love it.
I
saw he conquered.
I did continue the Du Bois version. They were confused at Gem City, by the way. A quick segue that made me think of the end of the tournament. They did a very Du Bois-esque prize support where they had, the prizes, then you'd come up and choose what you wanted from the table. And my choice, they had a basket of fruit sitting up there, which was not part of the prize support. And I just yelled, will someone bring me a banana? And they just went, I don't know what's happening, but here's a banana. You could have just had a banana. I'm like, nope, this is my prize support.
That's great.
The Boys is coming up though, right? It's in November.
Yep, it's the third weekend in November.
I would say it's a month away, right?
Yep.
Are you excited for it?
I am always excited for Du Bois, although it's a lot of work this year because we're trying to make all the tables 10th edition, and with the eons of plastic terrain, I decided to instead alter the Salt City GT terrain to make it all 10th edition, and we ran our first test event with it as a RTT here this month, and it went really well. Players gave pretty positive feedback about it, so it's what I'm running with. So won't be our super pretty terrain, as it's going to take me a while to edit all that, but it's really looking like it's going to be a good time.
Very nice. Loud coming in again with super chat. $2 super chat goes, once again, I'm making sure Brad gets the banana.
Or you were just at GTS last weekend, right?
Yeah, Gem City.
How'd that go?
Cincinnati guys ran a really good, it felt like an old school GT. Very nice, everything. It was 70 people and felt really good. Like they had it at a nice venue, like right next to an Air Force base. It was a very, everything felt low cost and everything. So it was like old school almost. It was a really well run event. It was nice. We had a really good time. I love it. It was the first time I've been down to those guys down in Dayton.
Oh yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about their event. So I think that's their second year for Jim Hammer, right?
Yep, I think so. I don't know, to be honest with you. I think it's at that, but it is funny though. I'll give you this story. Literally, we're looking at the GPS, and Lyle was told to make sure that he didn't mess this up, because if you go straight and you don't take the right as soon as you turn, you end up on an Air Force base. And I was like, well, we want to pay attention to that, because I really don't want a guy's foot on my neck because I missed the turn for the hotel.
Definitely glad you didn't have me driving.
Yeah. As Tom's YOLOing through.
We have ended up in Tennessee.
Oh, no. For those who are watching, don't know what we're talking about. Me and Brad were coming home from Pittsburgh. For those who don't know, I live in Michigan. He lives in Ohio. That is northwest of Pittsburgh. And I was joking with Brad. And I was like, oh, man, looks like we went the wrong way for like 3 hours. This is terrible. And Brad's like all upset and stuff.
I was
like
brutally messed up. I couldn't see. My eyesight was so bad. And Tom's doing Tom stuff because he can't stop trolling no matter what. And goes, hey, man, I think we're going the wrong way, bro. And you can tell he's trying to joke and be silly. But then he pauses and goes, oh, shit. I think we are going the wrong way. Oh, no. Is that sign saying welcome to West Virginia?
I'm going on for like 10 minutes. And then I don't know where I get suddenly silent. And Brad's like, wait, what just happened? There's a shift in your mood. I was like, yeah, I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure West Virginia's not on our way home. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, we just passed a sign that says welcome to West Virginia. I was trolling you. No, I really did go the wrong way. So a 4-hour drive home turned into a 10-hour drive home. It was a great time.
Luckily I was super happy.
Brad bought me some energy gum.
That is true.
It tasted horrible, by the way. Don't buy Jolt energy gum. It's terrible.
Energy gum and I don't know, what did I buy else? A stuffed animal thing.
He bought me one of those little chocolate eggs. Yeah. And Brad comes back giggling like a little kid, and I'm like, he was like, I bought you a whole bunch of gifts. He gives me like this bag he got from the gas station because I was filling up. It just has the most random stuff. It has like an off-brand energy drink, Jolt energy gum, some little chocolate egg, and then a little stuffed animal. I'm like, Brad, what did you do in there? Why would you buy these? He's like, I don't know. It's all at the checkout. I thought it was cute or something like that. I wanted to give it to you. I went, all right, nice. Funny story, by the way. That gum is sat in my truck for like 4 months in the center console. And we were driving somewhere last weekend, and Danielle was like, oh, I want a piece of gum. And I ate the last piece of my gum. I was like, oh, try this gum. It's really good. she takes a piece of it. She's like, oh, this tastes like shit. And I'm like, I know. She's like, why'd you get me? He's like, I just wanted to see what you'd say. Brad didn't do that shit. It was horrible.
Oh, God. Well, that is true. We should have had some Scott on for this. Missed opportunity.
I really like Scott's list.
Say again?
Scott,
I really, really like Scott's list.
I like where Scott's list is going a lot.
Scott's list went 5-0 at Michigan GT. With a win against me. So
it can score some points. And the thing is that list, I don't think ever gets blown out because it has so many scoring options that you can just put points on the board. And I love that about a lot of lists like that. I think that I'm actually really enjoying 10th edition. We started off with a big floating turd, and I really like where it is right now. We've got the meta is in a good place. It feels like we've got.
Did you see Meta Watch today, Brad?
I looked at the stats. I have not read it. All right, I'm sorry, I did not watch it. I just read the article.
So the Meta Watch today, basically, according to GW stats, which are basically the ones that count, there are 3 armies outside of their quote-unquote sweet zone, and they're barely outside of it. So if you look at their data and agree with it, the meta's in kind of a balanced state for the most part. Yes, there's some better factions than others, but all those better factions can compete and battle against each other. There's nobody blown out of the water. And sometimes you get a surprise army to come up, like this Sisters list, that can take things because it's more balanced.
I mean, I do like the meme right now that has the hobbits. Elves got a nerf. Well, what about second nerf? So. Anna come in with a $5 super chat. Here's my contribution to the sandwich and drink fund. Maybe Brad can get a box of Franzia. No, I'm calling out Lyle for this. Lyle brings me a jug of basically church wine, the big thing that you're getting. It tells me I'm not fancy enough. I wasn't good enough for boxed wine. And I'm like, the boxed wine was the next level that I wasn't able to achieve. Hurtful. I'm like, you're not good enough for boxed wine. I'm like, what is happening right now?
I still think the best thing ever for Brad and his sandwich and drink fund was ACO.
Don't even go there. That's not fit for consumption on this.
No.
Day two, Brad comes up like, guys, you all think I'm gonna be joking about this, but anything's on the table if someone wants to give me a turkey sandwich and a drink. And water is acceptable, and it's over there for free.
Bad decisions were made day one.
He's like,
Bado.
Maddo coming in.
Go ahead.
Maddo coming in with, is this the best meta ever? Sorry, Drukari.
I don't know. That 9th edition was such a sweet spot at the end.
Yeah, the 9th edition was fantastic.
So I think we're on the cusp of it being a very good meta. I think as more books come out, that's going to change a little bit. It'll flow.
Yes, but if they keep coming with the books the way they have so far, I've been super happy with Tyranids and the Marine books, and the fact that they're not OP, but they're not shitty either. They feel like they have multiple lists you can put on the table to win a GT.
And Lyle in with another $5 super chat. This chat costs more than the gallon of wine I gave to Brad.
Motherfucker.
The best part is Brad likes his fine wine, but he's a humble man. He will drink the cheap wine.
Yes, I will. I take what is given to me. So,
but honestly, Brad, after the first gallon, does it just taste like water to you at that point?
It just is what it is. I did find one of my favorite stories about wine was one of the things that I did for work. I ran with a lot of people that had a lot of money, and I met some people that had, and I got a gift of a bottle of wine, and I knew it was a nice bottle of wine, but I didn't know how expensive it was. And unfortunately, I decided to drink a bunch of random trash wine, and that was the only bottle I had left at the house. And I opened that and took it to the face when I was pretty tipsy, and later found out that I basically poured a $500 bottle of wine down my face, and it could have been Wild Irish Rose. So I was like, oh, that I could have savored this, and instead I was, woo, let's do this. So
we got Meta Monday coming and telling us his opinion: the golden summer of 8th between the Final Night / Guard nerf and the Space Marine Codex 2.0.
You think so? I think we had too many people at the bottom during that.
Yeah, I agree. There was too many people at the bottom during that. I actually think the end of 9th was really sweet because it was fairly balanced. what I'm really enjoying right now.
Also, 9th edition at the end, crisis suits could still go through ruins. And I love that.
So you're like, I'm big on that. No, the only thing about the 8th is I actually think Metamon might have a point. I think that the top and mid was more balanced than ever, possibly, but I think that there was too many people at the bottom. So I think that what the average tournament person saw was possibly the most balanced at that time. But I thought that there were still too many people at the bottom.
I do miss my Raven Guard Centurion list.
Dude.
Well, they're back, baby.
Love that list.
I honestly think right now we're at the stage that we were kind of like in January before we got the big Marine buffs at the end of 9th, where everything was pretty balanced. And there was a couple of outliers that were boogeymen, but they weren't like unbeatable, like Guard, right? Where everybody was like, oh my God, the Guard Codex is the most ridiculous thing possible. And it was good, but it never became 9th edition Eldar.
How do we feel about while we're talking about the meta and kind of going into what like the future where we're kind of going into? How do we feel about the AdMech previews?
Still,
I mean, that model's already broken.
Fucking still.
100% that model is broken. If you put it near Brad, it's definitely broken.
No, you put it near Eloise, it's bro. I've never seen someone hate a model so much as Eloise hated that Stilts model. She was just like, I will break other people's models as I walk by. I hate that so much. I was like, you have so much venom, girl. So much venom.
The little bit they've revealed of it, it looks okay. I mean, there was nothing that blew me out of the water. There's nothing that I'm saying, oh, that's broke. So.
I thought the Necron strat. Let's go into that real quick. I do want to go to KR. I just want to say because he goes, you just found 2 boxes of Centurions. KR, you have so much stuff that I think both you and Horton just find things that you've always had, and it's like a new gift. Woo, piece of candy kind of thing. Monolith, yep, exactly, Lau. I was just going with that. What did you guys read that strat? 2 CPs, you can literally, as soon as you lose any models whatsoever, you can just teleport back to the monolith, and it ignores the 9-inch restriction. That seems bonkers town, man. Like, you literally go, oh, your first guy attacks, I lose 1 guy, deuces, I'm out of here. Either shooting and fight. It works in the shooting and fight phase. That strat seems crazy. You just jam a monolith into your back ruin, and just kind of operate off that. That seems crazy good.
You just have to make sure that you overshoot it with the 1 unit, like put everything into it. So that
100% you have to. But that has Yin Karn levels of shenanigans, you know what I mean? So
it's fun shenanigans though. It's not oppressive, I don't think.
No. But I do think it's very tactical. I thought that looked really cool. That's the coolest thing I've seen in a while. I was very excited about it because I thought it offered Necrons something that they were lacking in. They used to have more movement shenanigans, and I really like the ability to just threaten that all the time. If you include, a CP regeneration character, which you'll probably have to do if you want to do that, you can always kind of threaten that you're going to deuce out with whatever, you know what I mean? Because what was the restriction? Didn't have restrictions besides at all, did it?
Within 6 of the monolith.
No, I'm saying, but anything, you could pick up anything, could you not?
Oh yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Well, any.
So
1 Necron infantry unit.
Unit. But yeah, still, there's plenty of them. I just thought that gave them a lot of different play because you can also do reanimations after that. So you basically pick them up, set them down, reanimate onto the objective. So it's just, there's a lot of play with that, man.
I mean, you need some, like, shooting at Lich Guard and then picking up your Lich Guard and putting them somewhere else. Because you're not more than likely in 1 activation, you're not killing 10 Lich Guard, 2 Crypto Thralls, and 2 characters. They're popping back. Because it's,
hey, Brad,
it's just after the enemy has shot.
What you know what the most fun is if your opponent leaves a hole somewhere in the middle of the table or something, and then you rapid ingress your monolith, and then that.
Oh God!
You activated my trap pod.
Yeah, but that's a lot of CP.
Yeah, but a lot of CP.
Yeah.
But you get to redeploy your Lich Guard into a really, really nasty spot, exactly where you want.
You could jam them. I mean, you could just start that though. I was thinking about that because if you just jam them, especially into the GW ruins right now where they are, you just put that all the way into the edge of one, you actually have some really good play to put stuff out, especially if you're talking deployment 2 or deployment 1. You just basically go 6 inches off. That puts you right behind one of the walls. Like, I'm okay with that. So
I kind of want to know what the Annihilation Legion does because I really like destroyers.
I mean, I also like just saying I'm bringing the Annihilation Legion. It sounds like some sort of big time wrestling thing. Oh yeah.
Well, I have a question though, Brad.
Hit me.
For you and Brian and Crowley here. Do we think Marines have what it takes to dethrone Eldar, or are they going to stay on top?
No.
I think they can creep up a notch, but I think Eldar still just movement-wise a little bit better, but without putting them on the table repeatedly and seeing what they can do, the math says it's still a favor to the Eldar.
Night Spinners are still OP. It's just they shut down so many armies.
I have lists that do really good into Eldar, but then they won't do well into trash. I don't think that you can solve both relatively easily with the Marine decks.
I think that you have a lot of play into Eldar, but I still think that Eldar's the top. It's just hard not to say that Eldar's the top on that. They're fully playable into now because they have less points. Their rules aren't as bad, but the fact is that movement still wins the games, man. They move faster and at more phases than everybody else does. Agreed, Hunter. Night Spinners greater than Marines. Yep. Yeah. If it wasn't for Spinners, I actually think that the Marines have a lot of play into them, but like you can really shut them down.
So is the discussion of that Spinners are probably the one thing that are keeping Eldar on top? How do you fix that? Do you point them out of existence? Because
just change the mechanic.
Change your rules.
You always change mechanics instead of just nerfing. If you point something out, just make it ridiculous. If you don't want them to be played, go, hey, they're 800 points apiece. You know what I mean? But like, stop nickel and diming them in the thing.
I think if you make Spinner just -2 to movement instead of -2 to movement and can advance, would be a big move.
If you just made them -2 movement, yes. You know what I mean? It's the can advance and the -2. Wow, coming in. You know what? I'm going to advertise this. Brad Annihilation Legion Chester versus Black Machismo the Jaguar. Pay-per-view. Yes. Yeah, Lyle really went into this. He said we're going to have a mask match. The winner takes the mask.
It's like the old WWF matches. Like if you lose, you have to pull the mask off. I remember like that happened to Rey Mysterio Jr.
Also, screw you, Corey. I said the goddamn reveal was C tier, and it was C tier. I stand by that to the day I die. Once they showed their stuff, they went S++++. And I'm going to make Marines work now.
I think the Marines are going to have some play abilities that are going to be tricky until you learn how to solve them. I said this while talking with a couple players earlier today. I think the Iron Hands detachment, I'm just going to call them what they are, is going to take a lot of the mid-table players that really enjoy certain builds and bump them up to make their games a little easier for them. And I think the skilled players are going to go to the Vanguard detachment because of all the shenanigans that are available there.
Agree on that. Metamoney's got a good question on this. Black Templars have a great GT win rate, but are not winning GTs. Who are they losing to? They're losing to Eldar, for one. They're losing to Eldar. I actually think Leagues of Votann has a great match into them because they have just great Marine killing guns, and the Black Templars bringing either a lot of bodies or a lot of vehicles or a combination of both. And I still think that Tau has a great match into that because they can just do so much damage to them. The Black Templar units typically are larger units, so things that can pick up large swaths of guys in one activation, a la crisis suits and stuff. That's really what they're losing to. They still have play into everything. I still think they have play into the new book. It's just that some of the top armies have good games into them, so you're going to get flips on that. Tau and Votann for sure.
I personally think that the Iron Hands detachment is my favorite. I think it has raw strength. I think it's like Dark Angels were towards the time when I had success with them, because it's just a really good army that just says no to certain things, right? You just win some matchups by showing up to the table. And I think that has its own advantage right now. Like in the Eldar matchup, I think Iron Hands is kind of favored because they can't really use their fire prisms against you effectively. And if they extend one out, you get to clap it back for free. So I feel like that's a really good counter strategy there.
It's a big deal on that. I think that it's funny because it shows our different play styles on that. Because I do agree with that. That's your Legion, and Vanguard is just the trash factory for me. What are you doing? Some bullshit tricks. That's kind of where I am. I also think that people are getting too crazy about putting. We'll go into this when we go into Patreon list building on it, but like. When I look at that Vanguard detachment and the Master of Ambush, sorry, it's no longer called that, the Blade Driven Deep, whatever, it's still Master of Ambush. You don't have to think of it as like YOLO swaggins a unit into people. Just pick the best spot on the board and put something there that's hard for your opponent to dig out. Especially if you're talking player place terrain, just jam an L and go there.
It's some of the juicy stuff now. We've never been the people that hide things behind paywalls. I don't like the comment. We'll do it later when we talk to our Patreons. Hit us some of that shit now. Let's hear some of the stuff you're talking about.
Oh, I was just gonna say I was gonna deep dive into it when we talk about that. It's just one of the things that people are doing is they want to put, a big unit, aggressors with Marnius Kelgar and the Biologists or whoever, jump unit, Deathwing Terminators, and big unit of stuff. And you can do that, but like most armies have something to just wrap that and just move block it for a couple turns. And it's annoying to have to do, but like you can just put a huge amount of points of your opponent on lockdown because it starts there and you can wrap it fairly easily. You put something like 5 or 6 dudes just on a neutral zone objective and just go, hey man, like the list that I'm probably going to take has a Deathwing Command Squad with an Ancient attached to it. And it's just OC 18. And I'm just going to sit somewhere and go figure out how you're taking this objective from me. I'd rather not push all up in someone. In some games you want to because you can really do some work. But I think that that's why I really like the Marine and the NIDS book so far, because I actually think that there's a lot of lists that are fully playable inside the detachments. There's actually lots of different ways that you can build that list. So I'm excited for both these books. I hope that they keep that going. I really, really hope, because that's why I think the meta is continuing to be good, because none of these books seem ridiculous, but they also don't seem shitty. You know what I mean? So you can actually play them.
So, Crawley, you're getting a lot of compliments on your glasses, just to let you know.
Smooth operator.
Thank you. I have literally found out that I'm going blind to the point where I have to wear them all the time instead of just for work now. It's great. Getting old is awesome.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. I was just about to say 0 out of 10. Would not recommend.
But I agree with the different. I think the when we had their feedback before about the Marine decks, we were talking about how it was too spread thin to the point where it wasn't able to successfully build a competitive list. I think now they did a really good job of the specialization to the point where the different lists function on such a unique level that there's lots of good competitive builds, but you can really build it how you want and still be successful. And it'll be really interesting to see if there's ever a unlocked list, because I don't really see any particular outlier that's like, oh my God, if you're not playing that combo, you're terrible.
Agreed 100% on that.
And I love that. That
same, brother. I do have to go to the wall real quick. I'm going to go to 2. 1, Corey says your glasses make your face look far less punchable, which I had to throw out there. And KR has been going crazy about the stupid fire streak turrets. And he finally just goes, full disclosure, I might have found a bunch of boxes of them. I'm like, this makes more sense now.
I have a quick question. Corey, man, what's up with the immense level of hate you have towards Steven tonight? You just seem to be like obsessively aggressive against Steven.
He's just
that's been going for months.
He's a troll. He loves it. He's just
sorry, I'm just confused on it.
No, that's just what he does. That means that he actually is down with you. Again, in our group of friends, if you're not making fun of somebody, well, what are you doing? So, Lyle coming in with $2. What's going to be the first book GW screws up? Oh, that's a good question.
My
Admech.
feeling is Admech.
Yep, Admech. I think their previews are lackluster as hell.
They're either going to be bland, or they're going to be like, again, so complicated to play that you need a flowchart. I'm hoping they don't do either, because I think after watching someone play Admech with a flowchart at LVO and one of the GW studio guys going, what's that? And he was like, it's the only way I can play the army. I get confused otherwise. And the guy going, oh, that's not good.
Bro.
That's the one I'm afraid they're going to screw up.
When I played 9th edition AdMech, I literally had to have tokens that were double-sided that said that when you're performing an action, you lose your aura abilities, and a flowchart for all of my abilities, so that when my opponent asks, I'm like, okay, here you go, man. It's an Excel spreadsheet. Everything's in the proper order. It tells you exactly how it works.
I'll never forget, and Brad will never let me live this down. I bought that AdMech army. I dropped like $3,000 to have it commission painted.
You were also talking so much shit about it too.
Oh yeah.
This is so, looks so sweet. I'm gonna bring so many overalls. I'm gonna crush everybody with this. And you made it through a game.
Two games.
Two games?
I sold it at the beginning of game 3. Like, this army sucks to play. It takes way too much. Granted, at the time, I was still drinking heavily at events. I haven't really drank much at all in like the last year and a half. But at the time, I was drinking quite a bit. And I was like, this army's hard. It breaks if you're not sober. And
yeah,
a lot of thinking.
I just love that you were talking so much shit, and then you were like, "Yeah, man, we ate dinner," and you were like, "Oh yeah, I already sold that list." I'm like, "How did you sell it? We're still in the same tournament." He's like, "Yeah, he's taking it after the game."
Texted me when I sold it during the game. I was like talking to the dude. He's like,
sorry.
He's like, I love it. We're like deploying my army, dude. I love your paint scheme. Looks like the guy I get painted from. His name's this. I was like, oh yeah, that's who I painted my army. He's like, oh, we got the same painter. I was like, yeah, it's awesome. He's like, dude, it's pretty much what I want to get. Can't wait to buy it all and get it painted. I'm gonna ship to him like next week. He's like, dude, I'll just sell you mine right now.
Ooh,
he's like, really? Like, yes.
And
Brad was laughing out so hard. He was spitting his wine everywhere because he couldn't keep it in. I was like, yeah.
I didn't think it was a real thing at first. And then you're like, oh, that's what I'm saying. At dinner, you were like, oh yeah, we already solidified that. That's the deal.
No. I went and borrowed an AdMech army for day 2 from the game room. You got models I can borrow. So I borrowed Hammered for day 2 because my guy literally packed my army up.
Oh Jesus, that is so funny. With that being said, we were talking about the complexity of AdMech. What is the highest ceiling, lowest floor army right now? What's the army that's really hard to play but gives you huge rewards in the meta right now?
Tau.
Crawley, what do you think?
I think Votann.
I can get behind that.
Votann's a good choice. Votann's a really good choice too.
You have such a good.
I was going to say Votann, and I think I'm going to stick with that because that was the one that came to my mind.
Bro, when you see somebody who knows Votann down to the science, they know exactly what units that they're going to hit with their buffs in the beginning. They have like the 5-man unit that goes up in the Sagittar that goes up to block you so they can get the 2 tokens where they want to. Like, they're playing chess 3 moves ahead and you're trying to keep up. It's fantastic.
I agree with you, except the only reason why I think Votann's number 2 compared to Tau is because mediocre players can still pilot Votann really well. When you see mediocre player on Tau, it crumbles really hard.
And Alex Ng might be right with Sisters. I mean, that is...
Sisters is a fantastic choice there.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
I think you're going to go for the highest ceiling, though. I still think T-Suns has the highest ceiling and the lowest floor. Because shit can just go bad, but man, that army can put out damage like nobody's business.
I don't think T-Suns is up there with what you can get out of Tau, Sisters, or Votann. I think all 3 of those codex just has a higher ceiling.
So when you look at a couple of the top 1,000 Sun players walking away from the army to go do other things because of where it's at, I don't think they've got the highest ceiling.
I can see that. They do have a low floor, though. If you mess up, things can go back.
They definitely have a low floor. I just don't know about the highest ceiling.
But we're not in the competition because they have a really low floor, but they don't have a good ceiling.
They don't have any ceiling. just a low floor. So,
I just Tau is such a hard army to play, and it's a different style than 9th, to the fact where I don't even think I have the mental. Granted, I haven't been playing much lately, living that dad life, but I don't think I have the fortitude right now to try to relearn them to play the style they have to, because it's deceptively just like the 9th list, but it's not. It's a totally different place.
Let's look at it this way. If you take the best army from the factions, right, what you would consider to be the best army build, what do you think that army build is for T-Suns that puts them in that spot?
Ooh, let me go back to that. We got a super chat question also. That's a great question too. Both your questions are great, but Matt put money down for it. Do you guys think Votann and Tau are still top tier on GW terrain? Seems like they can get screened out. I assume they just murder everything on player place terrain. Yes. The only thing with Tau and Votann, I think Tau get a little bit better on player place terrains, depending on the set, to be honest with you, because 2 of the sets for GW are really nice for vehicles because they have the full sections where you can go through with the 2-inch and you can go on that. So I think the Tau are really good on 2 of the deployments for GW. But otherwise, it really depends on what the player, with player place terrain, anybody that is longer distance shooting, you can set up some really nice lanes. So
I would disagree with KR. He says that higher team means wins, and he doesn't think Tau isn't winning. That's 100% not true. Me and Brad talked about it quite a bit. Brad even thinks he can win GTs. I think if I was playing actively like I was last year and learning, I think I could win GTs with Tau. I think Crowley's talking on for a while. He thinks he can win GTs with him. There's a lot of tools there. And I mean, it ain't just like the one cool thing about the list now is it's not like what's cool about not being similar to the 9th list is that there's so many tools. Like there's so many options there. Ghost kills are really good. I think if you're running 3 of them, they're really good. I think if you're only running 1, it's not worth it, in my opinion. But you have Sky Rays, stealth suits are really good right now. Obviously suits, Cold Stars. What'd you say?
Piranhas are
bonkers town for 55 points.
55 points for one of the best move blockers there is. They can also throw out some good damage to turn a move block. You know, the extra movement and the free seeker missile with the fusion, and then you're just the 4-inch hammerhead front that just move blocks absolutely insane. Like there's so many tools in Tau, and the reason why I think they have a high ceiling is because you have to play them more strategic. You can't play the what Crowley calls and Rice calls the Tamabunga list. You can. You're not going to win a GT that way. You have to learn, you know, a more Brad style with them, and they'll do fantastic.
I want to piggyback off of what Anna says because I agree completely. I think that Votann is more heavily influenced by terrain than Tau is, but I think that one of the benefits that Votann has that gives it the leg up is that it has effective melee that is buffed by their abilities. And if you can make a list that plays predominantly range but has those threats, it's super beneficial because you can threaten the middle effectively, where a lot of armies struggle to be able to threaten the middle with range attacks currently.
I'll give you that.
I like Votann. I feel like it doesn't have. I feel like they have some matches where they're at a disadvantage, but I don't really feel like if you're really good with Votann, you're never in a match where you don't feel like you just can't win, right? With Tau right now, I think you play against Brad's orcs. I mean, Brad talked about it in Michigan GT. I was like, if I get paired into you, I don't know how I win this game on player place. I just don't think I think because Brad knows my army is probably better than I did at the time, it's an unwinnable match. When you look at Votann, I think you're going to have some matches like, okay, well, I need to play really, really good here, but you're never in a moment where you just can't win. That's what I like about Votann a lot right now. And I think I 100% agree with Crowley when he's like, the army, if you have like a master there who understands it, they will pull things out that most people don't think is possible. I 100% agree with that. It takes a lot of practice. It's a very precise army. You have to be a very good general to be able to field that army proper. But when you can, it's a master class. So I love Votann right now. I like him a lot. I just feel like Tau just claps harder than Votann. I think a mediocre player can still get good results out of Votann. I think mediocre player playing against a strong field will not get good results for Tau. That's because we get in the mindset where we're trying to play it like it's 9th, and it's just going to crumble. You can't play that way.
Current Tau kind of
I was saying, Lyle did disagree with you with $5 super chat. He said, I could have beat Brad on Sunday in the finals with Tau. He said I could not have beat Brad with Votann. Or maybe he agrees with you. Whatever. He did something. He made an opinion. I got lost in the shuffle. Tried to do chat pluses.
And I think one of the things with Votann that we're seeing is because there was definitively, for those people who don't 3D print their armies, the Sagittars were extremely hard to get until recently. They've been coming back into stock at stores. Now that people can get the Sagittars, you're starting to see a little more interesting play out of them, and their win percentages creeping up. And I think that's part of the reason.
Well, I want to hit something on that Kara just said. He says, so is this whole game just what terrain is players play a army at tourneys, not an army built for a specific terrain? Actually, a lot of players who play competitively will always look at the terrain rules, and it is heavily modifies what list we're bringing.
100%. I'm looking at a specific list because I'm going out west and they play player place terrain, and I'm making a list for that terrain. So I almost always make lists for the terrain because it does make a huge difference in whether you can go through walls or whether you have places to go over. Like we were looking at BFS and they were running GWS terrain, but they were running L's instead of the two pieces that go together. So it meant that we had to put different things together and needed things to go through. Like for Votann, for instance, we put multiple units of Zergs in that I probably wouldn't have put in a normal army, but because of the terrain, we had to play that.
And one of the biggest things too, like in player place terrain, you can shore up weaknesses to the point where you can then exemplify strengths, right? With player place terrain, I can protect my home objective and my other objective from being able to be screened and cut angles on aggressively, making it to the point where I have to put less on there and I can force my game plan more aggressively. Where on GW terrain, like that's not a given. And on some of them, it's a nightmare. So you have to plan for your worst case scenarios. And it makes list building like Tau, as an example, right? If you were guaranteed to play on 5 objective X every single time, the ghost kill's a no-brainer, right? But because of sometimes you have no home objective, it becomes, well, why am I taking this instead of piranhas?
And a lot of us that are like on like the competitive circuit, the DOG guys, we talk constantly. Me and Brad talk before every single GT when we're finalizing our list, and I mean Carly's talked a lot too. Me and Brian's talked. Like a lot of people's talk because we will make changes in our list. Like, hey, by the way, I see they're running like this version of player place I haven't played before. What can you tell me about it? And they'll walk through like what that type of organization runs if they have experience there, and you will change things in your list. I remember there was one time when I went to ACO and the second year when you were running it, Brian, and I won ACO because Brad had me. He talked to me like, Tom, listen, it's player placed here. You should really make a few changes to your tile list. And Brad had me bring broadsides back because he was like, listen, when you place terrain like this, you can use them to come up this way. And I was like, that's actually really smart. And, like I literally changed probably about 300 points in my list, which isn't a huge change to think about it, but it had a drastic impact on how I played. And it was because it was playing player place. And at that time, FLG was the only one running player place. Everyone else was running GW, mostly layout 2. Some people were running layout 1. No one played layout 3 at the time, but or a version of GW. So it was rare to see player placed. And Brad's like, I know you don't play a lot. This is why you should do this. It's like it's definitely always before every event, you'll see those who play competitively regularly literally ask the TL if they don't have a player packet, what's your terrain rules?
That's probably the question I get asked the most is, what terrain are you using? Right. That was one of the things I got for a lot of people early in Du Bois signups. It was like, hey, what are you doing for terrain this year? My first response was, I'm going to try and do the GW terrain if I can make it work. Is it going to be the exact same as GW layouts? Absolutely. Or, terrain itself? Absolutely not, because I have some 3-story ruins on all the boards where I know those aren't on all the GW boards. But there'll be similarities to it. The layout will be the same. The 2-inch gaps in certain spots will be the same. So it's definitely one of the tough things. And as someone who said, I think Matto said, player place terrain feels like this is what we have terrain layout. That's how player place terrain started. Was, well, we have so much of this painted, we can't pivot on a dime because it costs a shit ton of money to alter terrain. Tom and I can both attest to that heavily. And you sometimes have to make, financial decisions to have the event and have it, function and be, not a giant money sink. And that's where player place terrain came from.
Yeah, we also just invested a lot just on brand new train mats, basically those things we got from the guys out by you, Brian.
Yep.
Basically for the event, because that's what a lot of players want right now. So that's an investment we had to put into our events. But they kind of go back on KR's response to us. He says, I'm talking about the majority of people who go to a tournament. Then it doesn't really matter, because the majority of people who go to a tournament want to go like X and 2, X and 3, and they just want to go and have fun.
Well,
they don't change
I'll give the thing about this though, like even though I have an advantage on player place terrain because I've player place terrain quite a bit. I prefer set terrain, and I also do think that it offers one more hurdle that a player that doesn't get to play as much has to have against people that get to play a lot more, because you get basically basically before the game starts, advantage. It's a big deal.
I honestly think that one of the biggest things, because everybody here agrees that player place terrain is not the best for the community as a whole, right? There's nobody here.
Far and superior than place in set terrain, in my opinion.
We all love GW style and what they did with the new terrain style. We all, I would think, agree that that's the best thing that they've done. The problem is when you go to certain stores, because this was a big thing when Ninth came out, our community was up in arms about how poor towering was for the meta because of terrain not being adjusted for towering, right? And player place terrain was a way to be able to perform a stopgap because you could draw your walls exactly where you needed them to do. And I think that that's when player place terrain is at its best, is when you don't have set terrain, you don't have that new GW layout. It gives the players the ability to protect what's important to them. But I do think that for competitive purposes, the best experience for all parties involved is having a set layout. It doesn't have to be GW style, right? Even London, though, I think I would disagree on London's layouts being...
The UKTC, yeah, well, actually, I like the old UKTC. The new UKTC is, wow, really open, but...
The shooting angles on that when we were doing testing were crazy.
My issue with player place is it creates a whole nother level of tacticalness that you need to know. Like, and I'm not gonna name any names because I don't want make anyone sound like they're, trash and everything. But I played a game on the finals of a big GT, and they're at the time top 10 in ITC at the time, and really good. Knew their army extremely well, and they didn't have a lot of practice with player place against Tau, and they didn't really respect Tau firepower. And Brad literally walked up to the table, looked at it before we moved to it. He's like, this game's over. And they didn't understand because they literally didn't respect an element of my army, and they didn't deploy their terrain correctly. And at that point, my terrain was put, because me and Brad had spent days practicing player place before we even left for the event. And I knew exactly how to put my terrain to no matter what my guys were jumping over, they're getting line of sight. But if I went second, they were always all protected. You couldn't see them, and it was an unfair advantage. And it's just if you're not experienced with player place, or you don't do it a lot, you just give an advantage to somebody who does do it a lot. And I don't like things like that. I'd rather the less things we have to prepare for, the less things that make it more balanced. As what I think we should. I'm sorry, the more things that make more balanced, the less things we have to be worried about.
One of the things that this was a big discussion amongst a bunch of us who are old school TOs who have been doing it for quite a while. And we were like, hey, should we just go back to variable tables where every table is different? Each table has something, so you can't list build to the terrain. And it was a long discussion of it's not that hard to go back to that style because most of us still own terrain from that time period. And it was like, but by having set tables, you give a fair and balanced look to every player. And whether they be super experienced or inexperienced, it gives you a fair and balanced thing. Because sometimes when you walk up to a table and you see the terrain and it's a mixed tables, right? Like, that table's a forest table, that table's a ruins table, that table's a Tau table, this, so on and so forth. And if you do that, you have to have some internal balance where they have a similar aesthetics to them of types of terrain. If you don't do that, sometimes you get a player who's going to walk up to the table and go, all right, if I just get that corner, I auto win because I know X, Y, and Z happens as I go through my game because of the level of skill.
The only problem that I have with that is on the TO aspect, the one player that's in the competitive bracket is going to play the other player, and then one of them is going to have a severe advantage on a table, and it is going to cause problems, right? Like, it's just going to be, I only lost because of X.
I'm just saying that I have to go to the fact that I threw Hacker Man on top of you, and then you established dominance by immediately making it your background. Best thing that's happened today.
Those of you who know, they know.
Oh, God. Ah, you know what? I care about nothing else in this stream except for that just happened. Oh, I definitely want to be Triceracop. You know what? I'm going to pick a poll for that. Let's make a poll before we rock and roll. We're getting towards the end. So, what do we think the favorite terrain type? So, our options are player placed, GW, and then what would you call like rotating through terrain? You know what I mean?
Varied.
Varied, but
Varied.
set. Varied set.
Yeah.
TO set
because
are very.
if you look at it, because primarily we all play in the US, right? Those are the three types of terrain that you get. I would love to put WTC, UKTC in there, but we don't get to see that enough ourselves.
Matt's coming with a super chat that is actually accurate. Sean Rice, I don't look at potential pairings. I just smash whoever lines up on the other side of the table. What a legend.
Incredibly, and I mean this in the most honest way possible, accurate. You will talk to Sean. We'll be at a super major in freaking at Nova last year, and this man was like, I don't care who I get next. I'm just going to teleport and roll a 7.
Yeah. Just like, why not? Like, what could happen? So, this Triceratops is going to be the final boss in the BG3 DLC. Oh, Carmona showed up. I did not pick the wrong San Diego event to go to. I picked the right San Diego event because that's the one where people said I could stay at their place for free. So, and it's also the one that I had a plane ticket to about 6 months ago. When he first put it
So
up.
what event are you going to?
I'm going to the California Cup. Stephen Corrales, the XPZ fellas.
Oh, nice. That'll be a good time.
So I basically got that like forever ago when they first went up. I haven't been to San Diego, weirdly. And I'm going to, at some point in time, go to Carmona's house, whether he wants me there or not, and just grab him and drag him somewhere. Serving up knuckle sandwiches. I don't remember you offering me to stay here. I feel that that's a lie. I mean, also, I don't remember a lot of things, so I could be completely wrong. I've been wrong, I'll be wrong again.
How inebriated was he when you gave him the off?
That's also a true story. BFS trade setup? Aren't you guys running a modified GW, though, Ed? I mean, that counts as GW.
There are a lot of different table layouts out there. There's a lot of capabilities. I don't think one's better than any of the others. I just think it's nice that you can have a standard and at least have an idea of when you're going into something.
There's a lot of modified versions of it. Like I said, BFS ran basically a GW, but different styles of terrain in the GW-esque. So I'm just going to call Kamara
going to
later.
make this whole process take very long for reminding you that he told you.
I know. I mean, he's 1,000% probably right. I mean, it doesn't take me drinking to forget things. So,
hey Brent, I made that
terrain is top tier.
I made that suggestion for Brett, but I don't think he's going to go over the border.
Yeah. But
that's not PG.
But yeah, and we got GW going on so far in the poll. I would agree on that. To be honest with you, I think it's the best thing that they've done.
I like on their new missions. I like the layout 1. I think it fits all the combos they've put into their. We suggest this line for the Leviathan stuff, which is nice. Also, I got to give one of the East Coast tournament circuit people, if you see Du Bois player pack, there is the missions basically laid out as cards in the pack. That came from them. I didn't do it. I don't remember which one of the East Coast tournament people did that, but oh my God, it's been a godsend.
Who was that? Carol that did that for us? Or for you?
More than likely it was Carol. It wouldn't surprise me because Carol does amazing stuff all
I'll just
the time.
say she does a lot of stuff. So,
And if you guys don't know who Carol is, she runs a lot of the stuff in Connecticut. She also helps with Everwinter. I know she's helped with BFS in the past. Absolutely fantastic TO. And she has been painting terrain like a mad woman, trying to get all her terrain, especially with being a new mom, with trying to get all her terrain up to the new GW standard. She's awesome.
I do love the quotes. Mexico would pay us to take Brad back. Thanks.
The cartels would kidnap Brad just to take him drinking and then kick him back over the border at the end of the night.
They'd have him for like an hour and be like, no, take him.
He drank all of our vodka in an hour.
Yeah, Ed chimed in, and it was Carol that did that. Ed, you have to thank her again for me. I know I thanked everyone in the chat who put that up, but man, that stuff is fantastic.
Oh my God. We do have to talk about that. What drugs was GW on when they said, you know what? Let's put servo skulls on the last day and see how that works out.
Wait. At Tampa, they played servo
Yes,
skulls?
they played servo skulls, dude. Crazy.
Now wait. What round was this? When the Sisters player played one of the Art of War people? Now we have the secret sauce.
You're like, play the mission that no one practices.
Exactly.
I don't think I've ever put servo skulls in, with the exception of like the first time we tried something out when we were playtesting. We were like, oh, we'll try this mission. And we went, no, never again.
I tell you the secret to beating Crawley at whatever event. Put servo skulls down, because I don't even know what the mission is or how to play it. I just know it's awful. I'll spend half my clock reading the thing trying to figure out how you're supposed to play it.
Dude, servo skills is bonkers. You're like, soccer kick the objectives, boot. So, gentlemen, promote things you want to promote. I will, of course, start with, please like and subscribe. Check out the Patreon to make it so we can continue to put out my technologically infused content. Gentlemen, tell whatever you want.
I would like to promote Du Bois GT. Please sign up today, as we're starting to get to that point where I need to start moving tickets to other systems if 40K doesn't sell as fast as I would like it to. So please make it so we have a strong showing and make the AOS players slightly jealous that we're louder this year. That would make me really happy. So it's duboisgt.com for all the information.
Hey, Brian, can you do my plug for me and plug Pizza Event?
Can I plug what?
Plug Pizza Event.
Rumble on the River.
Yeah, so Rumble on the River is coming up the second weekend in November in Indiana. Check it out at deathorglorygaming.com. By all means, it's a first year event. It is a growing event. We have more people signed up than what it says in BCP currently. And it will continue to grow and promote and be a good thing. I should be there 90% sure, judging. So it'll be a nice time to hang out and chit chat.
Love it. Everyone, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And everyone, Queens Wave.